studying for my MFA, Master's in Fine Art. And part of the deal with this program is that in the second year, you get your own private studio space on the upstairs floor of one of the buildings of the college, the art department. And it was probably like a good 150 square foot with a locking door, totally private. And so, rent in New York City is expensive. And so I saw no reason to pay rent if I had this free space. And so my plan, what I did was I moved into my art studio. And, I was gonna do that for the whole academic year, for the second year. It's a 2-year program. And it was great. It was working out really, really well, and not many people knew. Like a few of the other students, there was one other student also living in his studio. And then there was my boss, the head of the digital art lab as part of my work study financial aid package. He and I had developed a physical relationship. And so because of that, he knew where I lived. Whatever. It was all working great. Everything was fine. About 2/3 of the way into the academic year, that relationship ended. And it was actually he wanted to break up and pursue a different relationship, but he was angry that I didn't still want to be friends with him. And he ended up informing the acting head of the art department at the time that I was living in my art studio. And I know. I can really pick him. That's another story. And he also told her about this other guy who I ended up developing a physical relationship, the other student who was living in his studio, that we were both living in our art studio. And so I ended up having this circular conversation with this woman where she told me I'm not allowed to live in my art studio, and I said, I don't live in my art studio. And she said, well, you can't live in your studio. And I said, well, I don't. It didn't really go anywhere in terms of disciplinary action, but it did result in us becoming very scared. And I was afraid that I was going to get caught or that they were going to search, and try to find us at a weird time. And so, I changed my setup because previously I had my air mattress was sort of out in the open. And so I changed my setup, and the other student, he was really handy with tools and whatnot. And so he actually drilled a hole into the floor with cement, and he put a metal piece of metal rod so that the door could not open, the doors open inward. And so that no one could ever, even if they had a key, they could never actually come in and find him. He didn't offer to do that for me, and I didn't ask him for any favors. So what I ended up doing was I just put my bedding underneath a big table, this long table. And I covered the table with a black sort of cloth all the way from the top of the table all the way down on the floor. And so I slept under that table. And that was also fine. It was fine. I was still not paying rent, it was art school. Whatever, there were hard times, but mostly it was fine, and we didn't have much longer. The academic year was almost over. We had this plan, we're gonna move out, get an apartment, blah, blah, blah. And so, towards the end of the academic year, in around late spring, the building was gonna be inspected. And so, workmen were kind of coming and telling us that we had to get our studios clean and make sure that there's no hazardous materials and blah, blah, blah. Make sure that it was all up to code. And so we knew that this was happening and that it would be happening at some point. But I guess, with bureaucracy and academia being what it is, they also wanted to double check. And so this ended up with me being asleep under my table in my art studio at 6 o'clock in the morning. I hear a key in the lock. Yes. And it wakes me up, and I was just a pure shot of fear and adrenaline go ripped through my body, oh, fuck. All right. And so it's employees of Brooklyn College just coming around to make sure that they are going to pass this building inspection. And so they're just, 5 guys walking around my art studio, criticizing things, trying to figure out whether I have hazardous materials. The one guy, the digital guy, had given me a bunch of old computer parts, and they were trying to figure out whether that was okay, and it was gonna cause them to fail the inspection and this and that. And they were wrapping up, like, you know, it was looking good. And they're like, just getting ready to leave. And one of them is like, oh, we should look under that table. I'm like, fuck, okay, you know? And so I spread my arms and legs out so that I'm holding the tablecloth down. So that, you know, I'm hoping that they're not going to be able to pull it up and I'll be fine. I don't know. You know, this was just, I was in survival mode. This is what I did. And so the guy is like down there, like trying to pull up the cloth, and he's like, what the fuck? It's nailed down, like somebody help me. And so another guy comes and like helps him. And so finally, one of them pulls up the tablecloth, and I'm face to face with this workman. And he just like screams and jumps back so far. Like, I absolutely was not thinking about what this might be like from someone else's perspective. Very much in my own head. And so, you know, I came out from under the table. Like, his buddies were like laughing at him, but also very surprised. And I was just like, yeah, I'm sorry. We're not supposed to sleep in our studios, and I was just working late, and I just thought I'd go to the table, I guess. I don't know exactly what I said, but I told him, like, please don't tell me, like, you're gonna be in trouble, blah, blah, blah. And they were cool. It was totally fine with them. And so, you know, I did make it. I did live in my art studio for that whole academic year, and it was kind of funny. At the very, very end, there was like a luncheon for employee staff appreciation, and it was like well advertised throughout the school. And I went because it was like free food, and I'm just bullshitting with some of the people and talking to like a workman-looking guy, and yeah, like just telling him, yep, I'm in the art department, I'm graduating this year, and blah blah blah. And he's like, wait, are you that girl who was sleeping under the table? You know, like, I heard about you. We all heard about you. Like, everyone knows the story, and so it's just it reminds me of a quote by Roald Dahl that says, "The best secrets are always hidden in the most unlikely places."